the weather forecast with Coloca and its multipurpose banquet hall, Il Palazzo.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once more to this edition of the weather forecast. And happy to know you are concerned about the weather condition in your area, which is very important. We would have a calm weather dominating the nation tonight, with temperatures dropping to 14 degrees in the Adamawa and far north regions, 16 degrees in the west, and as low as 17 degrees in the Little Wild region. Would have as low as 18 degrees in the east region, and the south and southwest regions, expecting a range between 20 to 22 degrees. We take you over to the northwest, where tonight there is no chance of precipitation, and by morning it will be the same experience, with Kumbo having the least temperature at 15 degrees. Next, we go to the south region, where tonight there is no possibility of rainfall in the region, and by morning it would be the same experience, with Ebolova expecting the least temperature. And lastly, onto the north region tonight, the least temperature is expected at Garawa and Cholire, and by morning there will be no chance of precipitation, with Gide expecting the least temperature. I encourage you to make our time and go have fun at the Zoological Garden of Garawa. Thank you for watching, and do have a good night.
President Paul Biya turns 87 today. The Yaoundé Conference Center is the theater of the official commemoration, marked by diverse cultural activities by thousands of youth for united, indivisible, peaceful, and prosperous Cameroon. As we commemorate World Radio Day today, it has evolved from analog to digital and now to the social broadcast media. An inspection team of the African Football Confederation (CAF) inspects hospital and hotel facilities, as well as playgrounds in Limbe and Boya ahead of the Shan 2020 and AFCON 2021 football jamborees. Those are lead stories for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I am Gladys Tata, and this is the 7:30 News Live in Yaoundé. Cameroonian youths have celebrated President Paul Biya's 87th birthday anniversary in pomp and fanfare in a ceremony today at the Yaoundé Conference Center. The youth from all the 10 regions of the country praised the head of state for his quality of leadership and pledged to always stand by him. President Paul Biya was represented at the event by the Secretary General of the Presidency, Ferdinand Ngongo. Chief Unity Palace correspondent Ashinyenti reports.
The conference center is this 13 February 2020, the local of convergence between the national patriarch Paul Biya and the Cameroonian youth. The youth are here mobilized from all the 10 regions of the country to throw this celebration on President Paul Biya's birthday anniversary.
He is the father of the nation, and the Cameroonian young people seize the opportunity to tell him that we love him.
The festive mood is interlaced by fiery speeches from the youth to demonstrate their solidarity, support and encouragement to President Paul Biya for being an apostle of peace, defender of Cameroon's territorial integrity, the incarnation of national unity, a humanist and provider of an enabling environment for youth development. This elaborate symphony is spiced with a rich cultural repertoire. Popular artists such as Nyangono du Sud, and Reme Star are on hand to enliven the fiesta. At the birthday event, President Paul Biya is personally represented by the Minister of State, Secretary General of the Presidency, Ferdinand Ngongo, in the midst of a galaxy of ministers. Speaking for his principal, Ngongo tells the youth that the President is taught by their mark of attachment through this family tradition. He expresses his love for them and counts on them to meet the challenge of nation building.
Under the leadership of the head of state, the institutions of the Republic are functioning smoothly. The national economy continues to be remarkably resilient.
As is a tradition on such occasions, the youth of Cameroon make this present to the head of state, a sculpted lion which portrays the ingenuity and savoir-faire of the Cameroonian youth. On his part, President Paul Biya also sends an additional message to the youth. Contained in this bag, it is thus in total jubilation and exhilaration that the youth dance to the health of the president, wishing him many more years at the helm of the state as he clocks 87.
President Paul Biya at 87, a triumphant president. This is the title of a special 60-page publication released on the anniversary of the head of state. The Association of Journalists and Communicators of the South Region, SUDCAM, in this magazine, invites readers to a better knowledge of Paul Biya. It details his journey from Vomeka to Etudi Palace. Larry Efande read through.
On glossy sheets, the classy meet and in 60 pages organized in 3 main sequences. The first part of this publication, entitled The Recall, traces the journey of the head of state from his entry into the Catholic Mission School in September 1940 until his swearing in 1982 at the Glass House in Guayaquil, Yaoundé. A true initiation pilgrimage which divides the stories fed by anecdotes, testimonies and revelations which indicate the fact that in 42 years, President Paul Biya has traced his path with humility, piety, and an ardor of work. The magazine says spirit will not fail to reach the conclusion that such a success story could no doubt have been written if the man of November 6 was not inhabited or pushed by invisible forces of a predetermined fate that has neither taken shape. In the second part, entitled Analysis, the authors of this magazine invite readers to share in the light of facts and factors making Paul Biya a president who has faced all trials and always turned towards action for the development of his country and the people whom he served. In the same vein, this magazine analyzes projects which the president has earmarked on for the good of his compatriots. It emerges overall from these analyses that while remaining an enigma close to any form of pressure, thanks to their strength whose origin is not identifiable, President Paul Biya remains indeed a man committed to all the aspirations of Cameroon and Cameroonians. It talks about him receiving backup from his amiable wife. The 60-page publication brings about testimonies from all 10 regions of the country, from compatriots to the head of state, as if to say, happy birthday.
And in other news, Prime Minister Joseph Dion Goute has called on the stakeholders involved in the preparation for the African Nations Championship and the Africa Cup of Nations to strictly follow up and complete projects earmarked for the competitions within prescribed deadlines. The head of government was speaking during a meeting to assess projects designated for the forthcoming African Football Championship CHAN 2020 and the Africa Cup of Nations in January 2021. Star Building correspondent Sisako Tamko has the details.
In 51 days from now, Cameroon will be under the spotlight when it plays host to the 6th edition of the African Football Championship CHAN. To ensure that a number of compliance conditions and others that will impact on the success of the most prestigious African competitions have been met, Prime Minister Dion Goute rallied all the stakeholders for a state-of-fair evaluation. Ministers of key sectors, the Cochrane Committee, and government delegates of cities that will play host to the 2020 and 2021 competitions were part of the meeting. The situation, the construction and rehabilitation of infrastructures to host the African Championship in April and the Cup of Nations in 2021 was presented.
Stadia targeted Omnisport Stadium, Yaoundé, for the main stadium, Japoma Stadium, Bepanda Stadium, and the Ngeme Stadium of Limbe. We need to think about small repairs and maintenance. So I went into all those small elements that has to be polished before these 15 days.
Completing the infrastructure within the time frame is important, respecting quality and safety conditions better, but general organization of the forthcoming competition is even imperative. Assurance was given by Sports Minister that even the slightest detail will be attended to.
We are going just to make some readjustment to be up to the level of the expectations of CAF in the few days. Telecommunications, water supplies in some sites, and maybe the production of ticketing. All those aspects are going to be implemented in the few days.
Withdrawals of the competition to be held on February 17 under the patronage of the head of state, the Prime Minister prescribed strict follow-up of implementation of the projects by prime contractors and also insisted on general sanitation in the cities and highways that will host the competitions.
A 9-man mission from the African Football Confederation (CAF) has been inspecting infrastructure for the 2020 African Nations Championship and the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations in the BIYA sites. The mission head, Nigerian-born Samson Adamu, inspected hospital and hotel facilities and the playgrounds in Limbe and Boya respectively. Nook Protus presents a glimpse at the facilities which were visited this Thursday.
Many expert observers hold that the Limbe BIYA site has been ready for several months now. The main competition arena, the Ngeme Omnisport Stadium, and the training stadia in Ngeme itself, Bota, the Centenary Stadium, and the Muliko Omnisport Stadium in BIYA. In between several inspection visits by national and CAF officials, these facilities have seen constant upgrading in the quality of the playing turf, technical and administrative structures, security, and other logistical arrangements. Before the coming of this CAF team, it was Cameroon's Minister for Sport and Physical Education, Narcisse Moele Kombi, who came inspecting.
All the stakeholders and all the parties are strongly mobilized to make sure that we are going to have a perfect organization.
The eve of this CAF mission, it was announced during an evaluation meeting presided over by the Limbe BIYA Site Committee Chairman, Southwest Governor Bernard Okalia Bilai, that the number of hotels shortlisted for the Shan 2020 had been increased from 5 to 10. Each of the cities also hosts some of the best hospitals in the country, notably the BIYA General Hospital and then the Limbe Regional Hospital, as the CAF mission completes this yet another inspection of the facilities of the BIYA Limbe site. Fanciers have turned their attention towards the Shan draw on Monday.
And away from sports, the council management map of Cameroon has undergone some significant changes following the publication of results of the February 9 municipal elections. The CPDM has consolidated its position as Cameroon's leading political party, making its roots in former opposition strongholds, especially in the northwest and southwest regions. The PCRN of Cabral Libi is one of the emerging forces in the elections. Moki Edwin Kinteka reports on the new municipal management map of Cameroon following the proclamation of the municipal election results. Moki?
The results indicate the CPDM party remains the major powerhouse in Cameroon's representative democratic setup. It won a majority of seats in all the 10 regions. All the 3 councils in Mayo Sava, 4 of the 7 in Mayo Kani, and 11 out of 11 in Mayo Danai are under its control. All the 31 councils in the southwest region are CPDM. The CPDM is also in control of 33 of the 34 councils in the northwest. Bamenda 3 resisted for the SDF. The Bambutus, Upper Plateau, Konki, Minwa, and Day are CPDM. But the CDU still has a strong grip of its traditional noon, where it thrashed opponents, including the CPDM, to claim 6. New faces include the PCRN of Cabral Libi that has made inroads in Eseka, Makak, and Matomb, and the FSNC of Issa Chiruma that will preside over the destiny of Lagdo and Mayo Olo. Old foxes like the NUDP and SDF look onto the Constitutional Council, where they are seeking the face of justice to discard the results.
Closure of the February twin municipal and legislative polls on Sunday opened a new chapter in the process characterized by litigation, proclamation of results and by-elections where applicable. If all these elements come into play, it is possible that the process in some areas could still go for over 100 days. Our reporter Kilian Dandifon talked with a legal expert and now tells us the stakes involved in post-electoral matters.
Proclamation, litigations and by-elections of council polls are handled by Chapters 4 and 5 of the Electoral Code.
Supervisory Council Commission has 72 hours from the close of polling to proclaim results. Any person who wishes to contest the results must do that within 5 days from the date of proclamation of results. And here the petitions are filed to the competent administrative courts. And these competent administrative courts, they have 40 days within which to decide to rule.
The decision of the administrative court can be appealed.
Any party that is not satisfied with the decision of the competent administrative court has now 5 days to appeal to the administrative bench of the Supreme Court.
Council electoral disputes do not affect activities of the concerned municipal magistrates. Unlike the municipal elections, the regularity of the parliamentary polls is handled by the Constitutional Council.
The results of the parliamentary elections are proclaimed by the Constitutional Council, which has 20 days from the date of closure of polling to be able to proclaim results. But now, petitions are filed within 72 hours from the close of the polls, unlike the municipal elections where petitions are filed after proclamation of results.
The decisions of the Constitutional Council are not subject to any appeal, be they on validation of results or their cancellation.
And it is important to note here that while the post-electoral disputes are going on at the level of the municipal elections, the election of mayors will carry on unperturbed, and any proceedings that concern by-election will only be taken into consideration following the decision of the competent administrative courts, if any. And 35 post-electoral petitions following the February 9 municipal and legislative elections have been tabled at the Constitutional Council. The litigations were deposited before Wednesday's midnight deadline as prescribed by the law. In the following report, Quinta Rita Edang presents some of the petitions.
In all, 35 petitions from close to 10 political parties have been tabled before the Constitutional Council for examination. The majority are from the Social Democratic Front, requesting the legal structure to cancel the election in some constituencies in Mezam, Momo, Bui, and Dongamantum divisions in the Northwest region, as well as Lebialem in the Southwest region. The party officials are accusing Elekam for having delocalized most polling stations and transforming them into a few collocated polling centers without the knowledge of the electors. Another petition came from Bandam Joseph Njang, the SDF candidate for Momo East, who is requesting the partial cancellation of the legislative election in the Northwest and Southwest regions, saying there is cogent evidence that terror and horror reign in these parts of the country on the election day, preventing many Cameroonians from exercising their rights to vote. The Universe Party also filed in 2 petitions in which they complained of threats and intimidation by CPDM supporters in Mefo Akono division, the absence of the ballot papers of some political parties in parts of the Northwest region also featured in some. The CPDM also deposited a litigation as members of the parliamentary list in Vina in the Adamawa region are pleading with a legal structure to cancel the results in Gaundere 1, 2, 3 and Yambaka subdivisions, accusing the NUDP of corrupt practices during the polls.
In his traditional message to the youth on February 10, the head of state addressed the unemployment situation in the country. The ill persists in spite of considerable efforts made at recruiting some 500,000 youths last year, President BIYA added. While job creation needs to be facilitated, training ought to be tailored to meet the demands of the job market. Beatrice Losamba tells us more.
President Paul BIYA, in his February 10, 2020 speech, says the state has allocated up to 1/7 of its budget to education this year. Part of the sum will be spent in tailoring training to suit the demand of the job market. As of now, the head of state says finding employment, particularly for youth, remains a cause for concern because there is a mismatch between employment demand and supply. As it stands, there are hundreds of institutions training young Cameroonians in professional fields each year, but the number of them still unemployed after professional training is alarming. Some experts explain that professional training is the most important tool to use in finding a job, but we have come to a point, they say, when job creation should precede training.
An economy has to create sufficient jobs, and to create jobs, we must create enterprises and develop them.
A wise move will also be observing the job trends at a given time and acquiring the specific skills to fit into the job profile.
We anticipate jobs. We orientate youth in high schools on the fields that offer jobs at a given time and the job market opportunities so that they could choose university courses related to the opportunities. We also take into account the country's development plan and anticipate the kinds of services needed in executing the plan, and from there we tailor our training programs. When the project concretely starts, we will deliver the ready workforce.
With the current trends in the country, which is taking its nearly last bend towards emerging, with decentralization at hand, skilled workers would be needed in related fields, gives a clue on what to learn. The country's more serious bilingual drive also gives an idea as to what to acquire training in to step into job positions.
And here's an excerpt of President Paul BIYA's traditional message to the youth. Let's have a listen.
Young people with sound training and education will naturally be more likely to emerge as responsible citizens and find employment. Finding employment, particularly for the youth, remains a cause for concern because for the time being there is mismatch between employment demand and supply. The government and the Ministry of Employment and Vocational Training are making every effort to provide solutions to this problem. The former through its recruitment into the public service and the army, and the latter through the implementation of various employment assistance programs.
The Minister of Secondary Education, Pauline Nalova-Lyonga, today received in audience the father of the Colbison teacher, Boris Njomi Chakunte, who was stabbed by his student last January 14, 2020. The father of the deceased met with the minister to thank the presidential couple and the educational family for the support during the burial of their son. Cynthia Saptala was there and completes the story.
It was a solemn atmosphere that reigned this Thursday at the Ministry of Secondary Education in Yaoundé. Minister Pauline Nalova-Lyonga in audience with the father of the late mathematics teacher Boris Kevin Njomi Chakunte, who came to thank the government for their support throughout the trying moments. During the last couple of weeks since the 26-year-old teacher was stabbed by his student at the government high school Colbison on January 14th, the family has felt the support of numerous personalities, top of which was that from the presidential couple. Apart from the condolence message read February 1st at PATYCHOU in the West region, where he was laid to rest, the head of state made mention of the incident again on February 10th during his address to the youths as one that shocked the consciousness of the entire society. It is this act of solidarity from the educational family and from the government that the family's representative came to appreciate with this letter.
And on to this good news, two baby boys and a baby girl who were conceived through the in vitro fertilization method, thanks to the expertise of CRASER, have been delivered. According to Professor Jean-Marie Cassia, General Manager of CRASER, the birth of these babies is a gift to President Paul Biya for his 87th birthday. As Staff Lady Enaga Kebi tells us, this year emphasis at the center will be laid on capacity building in gynecological endoscopy.
As the nation celebrates the birthday of President Paul Biya this day, and like icing on the birthday cake, a baby boy saw the light of day today, 13th February 2020, at CRASER. He was the first baby born of in vitro fertilization in this year 2020 at this hospital. 2 other babies were received shortly after today. The 2 boys and 1 girl are doing fine.
This is a special day because it is the birthday of the head of state today. And I think that it's very important to notice that those babies are coming out the same day the head of state came in the life.
With Professor Jean-Marie Cassia in the operation block during the session were some young doctors specializing in gynecology.
All those patients are more than 45 years old. As usual, they underwent in vitro fertilization with oocyte donation.
As envisaged, the training session will take an international dimension as from the 24th of February.
Next week, we'll have the visit of ethics French group who is coming here, Professor Guérin, who will be here for 1 week to see what we are doing.
Before then, CRASER is today having a double celebration as they sing happy birthday to the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, and to the 3 new babies born this day.
And within the framework of activities marking the 54th edition of the Youth Day, the Circle of Friends of Cameroon, CERAC, will tomorrow, Thursday, 14th, carry out educational talks and hand over gifts to students of the Campo Government High School in the Ocean Division of the South Region. The ceremony begins at 11 Campo Ceremonial Ground. And in less than 1 month, the 35th edition of the International Women's Day will be celebrated in Cameroon under the theme, Promoting Gender and Protecting Women's Rights by 2020, taking stock of actions undertaken, setting a new course. To this effect, the Women's Day fabric was officially presented today in Yaoundé during the first preparatory meeting to elaborate on the roadmap of the 2020 Women's Day celebration in Cameroon. And that meeting was presided over by by Madame Marie-Thérèse Abena-Ondua. And on to other news, Cameroon today joins the international community to celebrate World Radio Day on the theme Radio and Diversity. As one of the traditional broadcast media, the radio has over the years evolved. For example, from analog to digital and then the internet radio. Yoti Kaleli Songe reports on the new radio era.
At the microphone, I am Priska Ngase. The news will be yours in a moment.
In the past, only voices could be heard over the radio, but today it is possible for the audience to see the faces of radio journalists or animators through webcasting, depending on the receiver. For example, a TV or a smartphone.
The radio is getting closer to the TV. Like, you can watch the radio on TV, and this is due to the influence of the internet. With the internet now, we have digital radios like a radio satellite FM. It permits someone not just to listen to the radio, but also to watch what is happening at the radio.
We call it technically transmedia because the sound alone cannot go very far now. You have, every time when you have a music, you have to have a video clip in parallel.
However, moving a studio from the radio to the doorstep of an audience to make it more interactive is not the only advantage in this digital era.
Cet écran nous permet.
This screen permits us to take the relay from the state TV during the head of state speech, for example, as we connect the sound to our console and air.
Et nous balançons le son une fois à l'antenne.
As the 2020 World Radio Day theme of radio and diversity goes, today's radio is diverse not only in content or concept, but also through the various media outlets being exploited.
The Minister of Finance, Louis-Paul Mutaze, today granted audience to a Japanese investor, Yoshioka Takaki. Yoshioka Takaki and host Louis-Paul Mutaze discussed investment avenues in the energy, industrial, agricultural, and technical housing sectors in Cameroon. The technological sector also featured during discussions. Yoshioka Takaki is a holder of 4 PhDs and has experience in various developmental sectors. The Chief of Customs Sector for Littoral 1 has lauded the staff of the leading Cameroonian metal market, Prometal, for the work they do on a daily basis to feed consumers with quantitative and qualitative products, as well as their transparency in dealing with the customs services, one of their staunch partners. George Mundua was speaking during a working visit at Prometal to see how the company functions and in which area the customs service can come in to give a push. We have details with Saline Dolo from CRTV Littoral in Douala.
The visit of the Customs Chief of Sector for Littoral 1, George Menduga, and his delegation to the #1 metal fabrication company in the country, Prometal, was motivated by a new ideology set up by the Minister of Finance.
We are expecting a new concept to be very near from the companies to know their problem and to bring them solutions.
In a guided tour, the customs delegation visited the 3 operational sites of the company, as well as the 4th that has equally gone operational with minimal construction work still pending. The quantitative and qualitative production of over 60 steel products did not leave the Chief of Sector of Customs for Littoral 1 indifferent.
We are satisfied of the team that we have seen and the collaboration that we have seen between the customs administration and the company.
10 years of activity, Prometal continues to evolve and contribute to the emergence of Cameroon by 2035. The testimony of their worth borne by some major national projects like the second bridge over the Vuri River, amongst others, constructed with material from Prometal. Their partnership with the Cameroon Customs has been a great catalyst for their evolution.
We are satisfied today as last year and many years ago. As partner, we have to discuss when we are facing difficulties, and in those difficulties, the customs can explain to us how to behave in front of that, and we have to do what they want, what is to be done.
10 years of existence, the #1 Cameroonian metal market, Prometal, with a manpower of 1,200, stands out as the biggest steel industry in Central Africa, with perspectives of exporting their products across the sub-region in the nearest future.
Tomorrow, Friday, February 14th, will be celebrated as Valentine's or Lovers' Day. In the nation's capital city, preparations has reached fever pitch as lovers, just like restoration services, have special gifts and menu for the day. Our reporter Gerald Nanji went downtown Yaoundé to sample the opinion of the city dwellers on how their schedule will look like. Nanji?
In the air, the city of Yaoundé is already vibrating to the rhythms of the Saint Valentine's Day, better still Lovers' Day. A day like no other in the life of lovers who reiterate their commitment for one another. It is traditionally associated with red hearts, romance, flowers, candy and exchange of cards.
Tomorrow we will go to the street Mfundi and spend some time here. You have to show that you love your wife or your mother. It will be chocolate, and for other...
Going to spend my Valentine with my father and my mother.
Bar restaurants and other leisure arenas in the capital city have special menu for their clients.
We propose as a starter smoked salmon. As main course, we propose sea bass with Mediterranean garnitures. And as dessert, we propose chocolate cake. We have also piano bar and we have some gift that we will give to the customers.
The Saint Valentine's Day is equally a feast day in the Catholic calendar, celebrated every February the 14th.
And that is where we leave it on the 7:30 news. Thanks for watching. Romeo Twisengok will be on set at 8:30 for the news in French. Keep the rendezvous tomorrow for another edition of the news. Until then, it's good night for the crew.